Hey, good morning, everybody. Today is April 3rd, 2023, and this was an urgent message after Father has revealed much more to me through a fellowship that he has formed. And my dear sisters, you know who you are, so I praise Yah for you every day and keeping you in prayer always for your needs. But it's very interesting how just during the season of Pentecost, that when there are true believers, true remnants who are truly filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, there is a lot of growth, a lot of revelation, a lot of better, complete understanding of what it really means when we're looking at these feast days, these holy feast days that are appointed to us to observe and how we're to observe them. And over this past week, as you know, over the past 3 or 4 weeks, I've been really seeking out the truth according to Proverbs 25, just looking for what Father has concealed for us to find. And it's right there in front of our faces if we pray to receive it. But it's really amazing how, I've seen even some Torah observers who believe that the law has not been done away with as it is correct, but they're still not quite getting it right. And this was really interesting because as you know, we're supposed to grow, and if we abide in him, we know that Yahuwah is the husbandman and he will prune us, right? So if we start to grow in a direction that is not correct, that is not going to bear good fruit, he will prune us, he will cut us back, and he will redirect us, he'll correct us, he'll convict us through the Ruach HaKodesh. And that is what he did this last week with this fellowship that I'm a part of. We were looking at Passover, we were making preparations for Passover, we were looking at that, but then we started to realize that, you know what, we can't just trust a pagan butcher to give us the lamb meat that we need. And of course, too, there were certain ways that the lamb has to be prepared, the way it's carved, the way it's sacrificed. There has to be a Levitical priest and a temple involved. There's all these things. And I know that, in the end times, that Yahuwah is looking for true worshipers, that we're to worship him in truth and in spirit. However, we can't overlook one for the other. We can't lean more on the spirit than the truth. It has to be a balance in truth and spirit. Okay? So, his true worshipers are to worship Yahuwah in spirit and in truth, John 4:23. And that's why I bring this up to you. Because the truth is that there are very specific commands regarding Passover or Pesach, regarding the lamb has to be sacrificed after being inspected by a priest in a certain way, and then prepared to eat in a certain way with unleavened bread, bitter herbs. And it is location specific. It is location specific. You cannot just have the Passover just anywhere. Okay? It is to be held in Jerusalem and not within our own gates. So that's the reason why I bring this today, is because I fear that some Torah keepers may be sinning as Christians who observe Easter do by observing Passover that is not according to Yah's instructions. Okay? There are 3 annual feasts that Yahuwah has commanded all of Yisrael to celebrate in Jerusalem. In Jerusalem. And this will be what happens in the millennial reign of Yahusha when he comes. We will all be coming to Jerusalem for Passover, Sukkot, and Pentecost. Okay? I said that. Passover, Pentecost, and Sukkot. Let me get a calendar chronologically correct. Passover, Pentecost, and Sukkot. The Feast of Tabernacles. Those are the 3 feasts that must be held and observed in Jerusalem. Okay? We cannot hold them within our own gates, and I'm going to show you this here in Deuteronomy 16 verses 1 through 6. 1. Guard the month of Aviv, the first month of the year, right? and keep the Pesach with Yahuwah Eloheka, for it is the month of Aviv. Yahuwah Eloheka has brought you forth out of Mizraim by night. So this is, of course, he's bringing people out of Egypt. The whole story. So I'm going to try and keep this video brief because it's very important that you take this to Yahuwah in prayer and pray over it. If you have been keeping the Passover in past years, you need to be taking this to Yahuwah in prayer because that is not correct. Verse 2, you shall therefore sacrifice the Pesach under Yahuwah Eloheka for the flock and the herd in the place that Yahuwah shall choose and to place his name there. Where did Yahuwah choose to place his name? Jerusalem. Okay. That is where Yahuwah's name is at Jerusalem. We must go to Jerusalem. It has to be in there, in that city. Okay. Where his name is. And you shall eat no chametz, which is leaven, with it. 7 days you shall eat matzah therewith, wherewith the bread of affliction, for you've come out of the land of Mizraim in haste, that you may remember the day that you came forth out of the land of Mizraim, all the days of your life. Okay, so this was the deliverance that he granted Yisrael from Egypt and Pharaoh, and this is in remembrance. All the days of your life. We keep it in memory. Even though we may not be able to go to Jerusalem, we keep it in memory. We do observe in whatever way we can. Not in the meaning that we get the lamb. We don't have our own Seder dinners. That is not how we do it. Okay. But I think we can, if you can manage to take the day off to rest and to pray and to worship and acknowledge that this is a very important day, that unfortunately we don't have the priest, we don't have the temple, we don't have the means or the place, we're not in Jerusalem to do this feast. Okay? So let's go on to verse 4. And there shall be no chametz, leaven, seen in you in all your coasts 7 days. So this is a feast of the unleavened bread because there's Passover, and then the evening following that is also when the feast of unleavened bread begins. Okay. Neither shall you have anything of the flesh which you've sacrificed the first day at evening. So you cannot have any leftover Passover lamb. That's what it's meaning here. No leftover Passover lamb. It's all to be eaten in haste that night as it's been sacrificed properly, prepared properly. There's so many directions, specific directions, that you cannot just disregard that. Okay. Number 5, you may not sacrifice the Pesach or Passover within any of your gates, which Yahuwah Eloheka gives you. Okay. That means your homes. If you live outside of Jerusalem, you cannot hold the Passover in your own home, within your own gates. It's clear. You can't get more clear than this. You may not sacrifice the Pesach within any of your gates. Okay. Number 6, but at the place that Yahuwah Eloheka shall choose to place his name in. Again, his name is where? In Jerusalem. There you shall sacrifice the Pesach at evening, at the going down of the sun, at the season that you came forth out of Mizraim. So, you cannot get any more clear than this, verses 5 and 6. It is location specific. Now, for Torah keepers who are keeping Passover, where they have their lamb, and they maybe even have their own farm, and they have their firstborn lamb, it's a year old, they've got all of those things, and even if they were to roast it and prepare it the way it's supposed to, they do not have the Levitical priest, they do not have the temple, they don't have any of those things in order to do this correctly. Okay, so spirit and truth. Spirit and truth. Spirit is, we know this is a holy feast day that we are to keep to Yahuwah. We acknowledge that. But in truth, we don't have what is necessary. We don't have the means to keep it as he commanded. So we cannot keep it as in our own way, right? We cannot keep it in our own way, because if we do, then we're no better than Yisrael, when they came out of Egypt and they created the golden calf and started worshiping the golden calf as Yahuwah. He does not accept pagan worship. He does not accept worship that is not as he has directed. That is sin. When it goes against the law, that is sin. Okay? And then the second witness, because I'm always talking about there's always a second witness. The second witness to this truth is the fact that during the time of the Passover, there were men who were unclean at the time of Passover because they had touched some dead things. So they went to Moses and said, we are unclean. How can, we cannot participate in the Passover. So Moses went to Yah, and Yah told them that they could have a second Passover a month later, whereby they would have time to become clean, to do all the ritual things they need to do to become clean, time elapsed. And then also, too, that they may be able to travel to Jerusalem to observe the Passover in the place where Yah's name is. So that is in Numbers 9, verses 6 through 13. If it were possible to observe Passover in our own hometowns or while traveling, Yahuwah would have not given the second Passover a month later for those who may be unclean or traveling to cleanse themselves, right? You must be in Jerusalem to observe this. You must have the Levitical priest. You must have all the things, all the means in order to correctly keep this. So when it comes to the Spirit and the truth, we in the Spirit acknowledge, Father, yes, we are unable. We pray that you forgive us, and we pray that you make a way. We pray for deliverance. We are as the Yasharites in Egypt. We are in captivity right now. We need deliverance. And so on the day of Passover, I was asking Father, what do we do? What do we do during this holy feast day and this season that you've given us? What do we do because we don't have the means? And what he told me was that we are to, especially on the high Shabbat on Wednesday and on the 11th as well, take off those days. There are days that are Sabbath, high Sabbaths, that no work shall be done. And that we are to pray for deliverance. We pray for deliverance, for his kingdom to come and his will be done on earth as it is in heaven, to send Yahusha soon, because the day is definitely growing more evil by the hour. We are to pray for deliverance during this holy feast day and this week. Pray for deliverance. Pray that Father send Yahusha to deliver us.